Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to our channel again to bring you something very important. Meanwhile, you know what I'm holding. I call it one of the flagships. If you have not read it, try to, so that you will become acquainted with the way of life of the earliest Israelites who are who produced the people that call themselves the Ibos or Igbos today, and the other members of the family of Israel. We are going to talk about how they came to have a capital city, both in ancient times, over 3,000 years ago, and over 100 years ago, in two widely separated locations. One in ancient Israel, the other one in the lands that sit astride the Niger River, which I personally call the Hebrew Ibo Republics or Hebrew Ibo Republics, and some call it Ibo land, in the territory of the very modern country called Nigeria. I'll read from a prepared text. When Igbos were forced to have a capital by the British, they chose a hilly location. It's important to go into this a little bit to make some explanation. By culture, the Israelite people were not really supposed to have a political capital. Each man was supposed to dwell on his own land. That was the way the Almighty God designed early Israel. Of course, there will be a place people will go to consult the chief priest or the high priest. Early Israelites went to consult Eli at Shiloh. You remember Eli, where the boy Samuel served his apprenticeship, the boy that became a very important Dibia in the land of Israel, the boy called Samuel, the son of Elkanah and Hannah, Levites who dwelt in the territory of, if I'm right, Benjamin or Ephraim. I'm not so sure, it escaped my mind, the tribal territory where this nice family lived, but it suffices for us to know that the Israelites, when they cleaved to their original culture, were not supposed to have a political capital. They only had need for a political capital when they veered away from the Israelite culture, which, by the way, the Israelites themselves called Omenana. Enu Ugu, city on top of hills. That was the name the Igbos came up with for the place they chose after the British interruption forced them to necessarily have a headquarters, a political headquarters. There are people who feel threatened by what we do. Meanwhile, we are their salvation. If I don't raise this point, I will be derelict. I'll be not doing what I am supposed to do. We know that there are people who feel threatened by our strengthening of Igbo history. They feel that their privileged positions, which they did not merit because they are not working very hard, will be threatened if the Igbo people understand themselves. And I made a point here. I am a young man. Otherwise, they would have invented the story that I was the person that created and invented and built the Igbo city called Enu Ugu on top of the hill, city on the hill. This place began to exist before my mother was born. Why did we choose that location? Enugu is also a name, a sobriquet for, wait for it. When the Israelite ancestors of the Ibo people must have a political capital, after leaving direct rule by Chiuku, what I just described, when they no longer wanted to stay to work alongside their priests, their Levites, and their prophets, they had to have a political capital. After adventuring into the aberration, into the mistake of monarchy, it was King David, the boy king, who fought and developed the city, who fought for and developed the city on hills, Jerusalem. Enugu, the capital of the present Enugu state of Nigeria, shares sobriquet with Jerusalem, the city on hills. Before Israel, Israel didn't have a political capital. In fact, the Israelites were the last people to develop cities in the Levant. And I am telling you with absolute authority that had the British not intervened, the Igbos would not have raised cities. Every man would have been contented to live on his own land. Contented, as one of the prophets wished for Israel. He said that at the right time, every Israelite will live very happily in his own land, under his own olive tree, under his ukube. All the cities you find in Igbo land rose after the British had come in. But that is different from what you find among the Yorubas. Ibadan was a megalopolis before the British came. Kanu was a megalopolis. Kanu is the Hausa city where you find the Fulani people today. Benin was also a megalopolis. The British did not invent all this. What you find in Igbo land was exactly what the prophets, what God wanted the Israelites to do. Every man to dwell in his own land, contented and happy. The people that are fighting this project, they are fighting the project of God. And I wish them well. I wish them well. As there is no single palace in the Hebrew Igbo republics. There is no single palace in the Hebrew Igbo republics. There is no single palace in Igbo land. So, were there none in Israel of antiquity? The first real palace to rise in Israel was King Solomon's palace. Because the people were not supposed to have kings. And their descendants saved this in the culture. It's not just in the saying Ibwenweze. Anybody that says Igbos had kings don't know what kings mean. Kings usually own all the land. Kings are usually gods. There is no place you found kings in the world where they did not metamorphose into gods. Mention one single place that kings did not become gods, and you'll get a prize from me. King Saul operated from his house in Gibeah. I will reiterate it.